Take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
CannabisRadio.com presents The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hey, this is great, man.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Wednesday, August 3rd, 2016, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us here. It's a beautiful, clear day in legal Potland, Oregon, and we've got lots of marijuana news for you today. Before I get to the marijuana news, though, I just have to shake my head in disbelief at the campaign of Donald Trump. You know, if Hillary Clinton wants to win this thing, all she really needs to do is just shut up and go on vacation for 4 months. Just let Trump have the stage. It seems like every day he dips further down into the depths of electoral demise. I mean, going after a Gold Star mother, doubling down on it, saying the elections could be rigged. And then today it comes out that Trump, this is on Morning Joe, that according to someone Joe Scarborough knows, who is a military briefer for Donald Trump, that Trump asked 3 times in a 1-hour briefing, why can't we just use our nukes? So, this is quite the election. I know this is going to be a lot of fun over the next 90 some odd days. But let's get back to the marijuana news because, as promised, hour 1, the Russ Belville Show is all about marijuana. And in the news today, we are going to go behind the headlines and take a look at President Obama, who has already set the record. I don't know if it's a record, but he's already beaten at least the last 6 presidents combined on presidential pardons and commutations, particularly for long-term drug offenders and usually cocaine or crack cocaine offenses. But today, he just commuted 214 drug sentences. 214 commutations, which is the largest one-day commutation, I think, in our nation's history, but at least in the last 100 years or so. And within those commutations, there are 4 commutations for prisoners who were serving time for marijuana only. We'll tell you about those 4 prisoners and just how much time they got out of, thanks to there being a Democrat in the White House and a Democratic administration that reviews such commutations. After that, we'll take a look at our newest segment, the Cannabis Sports Report. And in the Cannabis Sports Report today, we learn of a new column on The Cannabist, the website of the Denver Post that covers all things cannabis, by former Ravens offensive tackle Eugene Monroe, who is still Eugene Monroe, I understand. Former Ravens tackle has now got a column within one of the largest cannabis websites, and we'll take a look at that column today in our new Cannabis Sports Report. Also coming up on the show today in Government at Work, we take another look at Donald Trump and his phony support of marijuana. I'm getting a lot of hits from people that are passing along this link that Donald Trump says that marijuana legalization is A-OK. I'll tell you why you should take that with a salt lick. Then we'll have time for the Radical Rant, and in the rant today, some amazing stuff I just learned over the past hour from OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, a new rule about reporting workplace accidents that could have beneficial results for those of us who hate drug testing. We'll talk about that. And then in hour 2, we've got other subjects to cover. We'll talk about the UK looking at the Clinton-Trump battle and whether marijuana will make any difference on the state ballots. We get a look at the commercials that are making their way onto social media for marijuana businesses and more. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
use isn't the only thing grow. So are we. Grow with us. CannabisRadio.com.
Play as Ted Growing, expelled botany sophomore and the biggest grower in town, only on Weed Firm Replanted. Available on the App Store and Google Play.
It's a lot of work being the biggest grower in town. Maintaining a room full of plants while dealing with a slew of eccentric customers? From a hardcore partier to the curious neighbor next door.
Is anybody home?
Help me expand my bud business by unlocking new strains, customizing my grow room, and completing challenges that you can't get enough of. Grow your empire so big you can see it from space. Low on funds? Don't worry. Weed Firm Replanted is free to download.
Download Weed Firm Replanted for free on the App Store and Google Play today. Get growing, Mr. Growing.
It's time to Hemp Present
with Enadina Stanger.
I say to you with all the fervor of my soul that God intended men to be free. Rebellion against tyranny is a righteous cause. And I believe that with every ounce of my soul, we are fighting a righteous cause because people need nature.
Marijuana! Hemp Present, only on Cannabis Radio.
Sweet sativa.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
I beat China all the time.
Okay, maybe you're high, too.
Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
It's time for the Cannabis Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Cannabis Radio News is now available exclusively at CannabisRadio.com. Now your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is Cannabis Radio News.
This is your Cannabis Radio News for Wednesday, August 3rd, 2016. Flandreau, South Dakota. South Dakota's top prosecutor charged 2 consultants who worked with a Native American tribe on its plans to open the nation's first marijuana resort with drug offenses, accusing them of having seeds shipped from the Netherlands hidden in CD cases and sewn into clothing. The charges were announced on Wednesday and come about 8 months after the Flandreau Santee Sioux destroyed their crop amid fears of a federal raid, abandoning an ambitious scheme to develop an adult playground that they estimated could net as much as $2 million a month in profits. Eric Hagen, Monarch's chief executive, the company hired for the consulting, was charged by indictment with conspiracy to possession, and attempt to possess more than 10 pounds of marijuana. Jonathan Hunt, the vice president and cultivation expert, was charged with conspiracy to possess between a half pound and a pound of marijuana. Bend, Oregon. Deschutes County officials are lifting a ban prohibiting some marijuana businesses from operating in unincorporated areas. The Bend Bulletin reports that the county commission adopted an ordinance Monday that repeals the ban starting September 1st. Commissioners had already approved policies for medical and recreational pot businesses in June that are now in effect. The ban, which had been implemented in December, remained in place because of an appeal period when the regulations could have been challenged. No appeal had been filed. Monday's decision comes after rural property owners urged the county to continue the ban earlier this year and called for it to be placed on the November ballot. Members and supporters of the industry pushed for the ban to be lifted so they could apply for recreational licensing from the state. Washington, D.C. The DEA has still not made a decision on rescheduling marijuana, but tells Denver's The Cannabist that the agency is, quote, closer than we were a month ago, end quote. DEA made headlines early last year when they hinted that a decision on rescheduling would be made by the end of the first half of 2016. When July 1st came with no decision, DEA pushed the supposed decision date back to August 1st. Now, DEA spokesman Russ tells the Cannabis that, quote, "I can't give you a time frame as to when we may announce a decision," end quote. The Department of Health and Human Services in April submitted its scheduling recommendation to DEA, leading DEA to reach out to the FDA and NIDA for other opinions. The recommendation by HHS has not been made public. Boston, Massachusetts. 4 years after passing their medical marijuana law, residents of Boston have their first medical marijuana dispensary. Patriot Care on Milk Street will be the 7th dispensary to open in the Commonwealth. The other dispensaries are located in Ayer, Brockton, Brookline, Lowell, Northampton, and Salem, which opened the Commonwealth's first dispensary in June of last year. Massachusetts dispensaries sell almost 13,000 ounces monthly to over 27,000 registered patients. Springfield, Illinois. State officials have released figures showing that sales of medical marijuana have reached $2.9 million for the month of July. In the 9 months since sales began in November, there has been $16.3 million sold throughout Illinois. There are now almost 9,000 registered patients and 40 dispensaries operating in the state. Last month, the governor extended the pilot program to the year 2020. He also signed legislation adding PTSD and terminal illnesses to the qualifying condition list, which will doubtlessly increase patient rolls and dispensary sales. Boston, Massachusetts. The campaign against marijuana legalization in Massachusetts have announced that a bipartisan group of 119 state legislators are opposed to the measure. That represents more than half of the 200-seat legislature. But two city officials, City Council President Michelle Wu and Councilor Tito Jackson, are endorsing the measure, putting them at odds with Boston Mayor Marty Walsh, who is opposed. This has been your Cannabis Radio News for Wednesday, August 3rd, 2016. I'm Russ Belville.
We don't limit how much you smoke, and we don't limit where you listen. Cannabis Radio is now on iTunes, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio.
Oh, let the marijuana llama tell you something now about a game for your phone gonna make you say, wow! The game's about the game of growing cannabis for cash. Grow the seed, sell the bud, put the savings in the stash. Little by little, your empire grows large. Put the big celebrities inside your entourage. You can choose to play with Snoop or me or Cheech and Chong, Cypress Hill, Willie Nelson, Wiz Khalifa with a bong. The name of the game is Hemp Inc., that's the point. Download and play while you light yourself a joint. The business of cannabis should be no crime. Hemp Inc. has been approved by the man who won high times. Oh yeah, get it on Android and iOS today. Marijuana llama out. Got to tend to me on crap shadow. Money don't make itself. Hemp Inc.
NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks may be far less than those posed by legal drugs. You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
We need to build a wall.
Okay. Maybe you're high, too.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer. Or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com.
The world of cannabis is evolving at a frenetic pace. The Russ Belville Show gets behind the headlines to take a deeper look at breaking news in our Cannabis Focus.
Today in the Cannabis Focus, we want to take a look at the historic commutations that were issued today by President Obama. He commuted the sentence of 214 federal prisoners who were mostly serving time for drug offenses, a lot of crack cocaine, a lot of methamphetamine within those. But within the list of 214, there are, if I remember correctly, there were 20 prisoners who were serving time on marijuana-related charges, who would still be in prison throughout the 2020s, some into the 2030s, who are being released in 2016 or 2017. Now, I thought about bringing all 20 of them up and talking about them, and then I thought, you know what, let's pare down that list a little bit for time's sake and cut out all the people whose charges also involved cocaine, because there was a few that were distribution of marijuana, distribution of cocaine. There were some that were distribution of marijuana plus some other terrible felony. And I just reduced it to those who were non-violent marijuana-only offenders doing federal time. You know, because like Kevin Sabet says, nobody ever goes to jail for just marijuana, right? There were 4 of them. And interestingly enough, 3 out of Texas that were commuted. Our first nonviolent marijuana-only offender whose sentence got commuted is named Jose Carlos Arras Jr. He's out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. He was convicted of conspiracy to import, conspiracy to wit, possession with intent to distribute 100 kilograms and more of marijuana. He was sentenced to 21 years in prison in 2002. 21 years. That means this guy would have been sitting in prison until 2023. President Obama commuted his sentence to December of 2016. He will be out at the end of this year. Ramon Gonzalez of San Juan, Texas. He was convicted of conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute 4,506.65 kilograms of marijuana. Wow. 45, that's like 4.5 metric tons, right? That's, let's see, 4,500 kilograms, 2.2 pounds in a kilogram, 10,000 pounds of marijuana-ish. Possession with intent to distribute about 10,000 pounds of marijuana. He was given a life sentence in 2009. A life sentence in 2009 has now been commuted to a 30-year sentence. So he's still going to be there until 2039, but he's got hope. He may live to see the outside world again. Also, when you commute a sentence from life to 30 years, it changes how parole and those sorts of things work as well. So he might get out before that. Luciano Murga from Houston, Texas, was convicted of conspiracy to distribute and possess with intent to distribute 1,000 kilograms or more of marijuana. Again, about 2,200 pounds. He was convicted for 20 years, sentenced to 20 years, in 2005. So, had President Obama not commuted his sentence, he would get out in 2025. His sentence was commuted to December 2016. So instead of waiting for another 9 years, President Obama just gave this man 9 years of his freedom back. And finally, Cedric Dwayne Stevens of Waco, Texas. Conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute at least 1,000 kilograms of marijuana and conspiracy to commit money laundering. He was sentenced in 2011 to 10 years in prison. His sentence also commuted to the end of 2016. So here's a guy who got 5 years of his freedom back. So when it comes down to our electoral politics and who we choose as president, these are the kinds of decisions, the little decisions a president makes, whose sentences get commuted. And that president makes those decisions based on who the attorney general serves up from a recommendation list. And that recommendation list comes up from who people on the Bureau of Paroles and Pardons and the sentencing commissions come up with. So if you want to take a chance that a presidential candidate who says he's going to be the law and order candidate will make the appointments to the various bureaus and departments that lead to all these commutations, and then you want to take the chance that this guy who says he's Mr. Law and Order
dumb dope.
And you want to take a chance that Mr. Law and Order gets a whole bunch of commutation requests from Hispanics and African Americans who were convicted in a court of law of serious felonies, and you want to trust him to make the right decision. Think long and hard about your vote, folks. We're going to take a break. Happy 420, Denver. We'll be right back.
Maui Wowie, Acapulco Gold, California Kush. Our strains stretch everywhere too.
This is the Cannabis Radio Network.
Dr. Dabber, hurry! Its temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct. Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
Educator, author, and advocate Dr. Mitch Earlywine is here to tackle the burning issues.
Author Catherine Hiller and her great new book, Just Say Yes, Marijuana Memoir. So I love the way you use time in the memoir.
I started at the present time, and I described a visit to my dealer, and then I would go backward in time so that every chapter starts a little bit earlier. I do not feel that marijuana has in any way harmed my life. It certainly hasn't led me to the streets. It's led me to a more joyful life experience.
Burning Issues, only on CannabisRadio.com.
You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com, where we don't change our mind on decriminalization during an election year.
Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz. As more people learn the truth about the healing properties of cannabis as an anti-inflammatory, analgesic, and neuroprotectant, more amateur and professional athletes are calling for tolerance of medical marijuana use in the world of sports. Today, we take a look at the intersection of cannabis and athletics with our Cannabis Sports Report. All right, welcome to our new segment, the Cannabis Sports Report, featuring the greatest college fight song ever recorded by the greatest college marching band ever. But anyway, welcome to the segment, and I want to start this off by welcoming Eugene Monroe to the world of cannabis writers, the world of cannabis columnists. Eugene now has a column at The Cannabist. In the byline says, by Eugene Monroe, The Cannabist staff. So he's now one of me. He is a marijuana columnist. So welcome, Eugene. Glad to have you here. And in his first column for The Cannabist, he which is entitled, I Am Worried About My NFL Family. I Am Ready to Talk Cannabis. I Am Eugene Monroe. And he discusses the difficulty that he is facing and the worries he has about this new activity of his. He's been a football player for 18 years. He's age 29. He's been playing since he was 11 years old, and he's never really done anything full scale like he's done football. So I can understand it's a complex and difficult transition to make. I went from being a professional musician and a corporate trainer to being a talk radio host and a marijuana activist. So, change is in the air, I guess. But I wanted to start with this, a couple of paragraphs from Eugene's column that I think kind of set the tone. He says, or he writes, if I was still playing today, I'd be a few days into training camp.
Each game in the NFL is scripted with plays that are run at full speed. The speed of practice must match the speed of the game to create proper timing. This bruising practice is done at the expense of players' bodies and brains, but it's accepted as being a part of the game. I would assuredly be taking a daily course of Celebrex, an anti-inflammatory drug that would reduce the swelling in my surgically repaired knee, 3 operations. As the practices pile up, I'd likely need Vicodin to deal with the pain to keep fighting through camp. Now, a few drops of THCA tincture helps me manage both of those symptoms, sans the side effects that come with the many pharmaceuticals. If I'm in more pain, a single vaporized hit of CO2 extracted cannabis oil can calm it down. I may also be protecting my brain at the same time from the more than 50 shots I would have taken to my head each day between drills and scrimmaging. And this is great from Eugene Monroe, him making that point that I think, for the general public out there, they are still stuck in the thought that when we're talking about medical marijuana for these athletes, that we're somehow talking about them, smoking a joint before and after practice. And I'm not going to stop them if they want to do that either. But largely what we're really talking about here are these athletes that want to use, like he said, a tincture or a vaporizer. And I think the more that the public understands this as being not just athletes getting high or having a good time, but really using this as a medicine, I can't imagine that the NFL's obstruction to this can last much longer. The NFL's about money and ratings and image and brand. The unofficial slogan is protect the shield. Do whatever it takes to protect the integrity of the game and the image of the game. And the NFL's been taking a lot of hits, pardon the pun, in its image lately with domestic abuse, the Ray Rice case that came up, the cases of these former players that are exhibiting the symptoms of CTE and acting in a psychotic way. Jovan Belcher a few years ago shooting himself in the parking lot of the Kansas City Chiefs practice facility. I mean, these are starting to pile up. And as more Americans become aware of the role that concussions are playing, and how the NFL for so many years has been downplaying concussion, this is going to affect the game at its most base level, those mothers who won't let their little boys play Pop Warner football or junior high football or high school football. So at some point, the NFL cannot duck this issue any longer and needs to be seen as doing something proactive to make the game safer. And there's going to be a balancing point. There's going to be a point at which the public understanding of medical marijuana, the public support of medical marijuana is greater than what they think they would lose in image by seemingly endorsing marijuana use, seemingly endorsing some sort of drug. And we cannot underestimate the pull that the alcohol industry and the pharmaceutical industry and their advertising dollars are having on this discussion. We know that alcohol advertising revenue, pharmaceutical advertising revenue, particularly boner pills, is a major profit center for the NFL and for the networks that cover those NFL games. But at some point, it is going to be more in the NFL's bottom line, more in their self-interest to endorse this than to reject it. And I'm glad people like Eugene Monroe, people who have the standing to really address this from an expert point of view, are making this stand and forcing the NFL to address this sooner rather than later. There's going to be a great panel of these experts at the Southern California Cannabis Expo. It's taking place in San Diego this weekend. If you can't make it to the Indo Expo in Portland, if you're closer to Southern Cal, maybe you want to head down to that and check out that Gridiron Cannabis Coalition panel. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, I'm going to break down Donald Trump's phony support for marijuana legalization.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
How high do you like your profit margin?
CannabisRadio.com. The cannabis industry is growing, business is booming, and as new opportunities arise in newly legalized states, each market is getting more competitive. Today, it takes more than just being a good grower. Do you have the resources to market and handle this ever-changing business landscape? Let Canna Management Corporation help you grow your canna business with our vast resources and experience to make your business a fully functional service company. Financial management, HR, sales, marketing, efficiency, and more. CMC has the experience and the expertise to improve your business and help you better meet the demands of your clients and customers. Call Canna Management Corporation and let our team get you ready to grow. 415-269-8015. That's 415-269-8015. Or visit canna-management.com. The political climate is at a fever pitch, and the fight for the social fabric of America is set for battle this November. Tuesday, November 8th, the cannabis liberation movement takes a huge step forward, and Cannabis Radio is here to chronicle this legendary moment. CannabisRadio.com and the Cannabis Radio News team will feature wall-to-wall live coverage of all the coast-to-coast voting of state amendments, ballots, propositions, and initiatives that will further progress the cannabis crusade. Join us Thursday, November 8th for Vote 2016, The Path to Cannabis Freedom, only on CannabisRadio.com.
The Russ Belville Show. Chat is for friends 18 and older. We expect our chat to be civil, mature, and free from excessive profanity. If you don't like these rules, there are approximately 6 billion other chat rooms with lower standards that you can visit.
Coming soon to a city near you, Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. Get all your cannabis accounting, legal, and compliance questions answered by their knowledgeable panel of industry experts who want to help your canna business boom. Whether you're a grower, dispensary operator, or a newcomer to the field, your canna business needs Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. For information on upcoming events, visit CannabisFinanceBootCamp.com. Reforming America's marijuana prohibition laws takes education, lobbying, and voting. From Washington, D.C. to your state capital to your city hall, marijuana law reform involves all levels of civic life. Learn how you can make your impact with elected officials as we take a look at our government at work.
Well, today in Government at Work, we're going to continue our look at the 2016 presidential election. And the latest thing that's been coming up, and for those of you listeners who pop in from time to time and haven't been following, I'm in this major kerfuffle with some of my fans over my switch from being a Bernie or Buster to being a stop Donald Trump at all coster. And there have been a lot of debates going back and forth. I've been typing my fingers off on Facebook, back and forth, having the political chats. And one of the things that I'm getting in response, because people are trying to, sink my arguments and all this. And one of my arguments is that a Trump administration would be disastrous for marijuana reform. And I made this point in my radical rant on Tuesday up on hightimes.com, that you have to consider that what if we get an Attorney General Christie and we get a drug czar Kevin Sabet? And the point being that the president appoints lots and lots of bureaucrats, judges, officers, officials, inspectors, auditors, prosecutors, all these people that exist in the federal government, in the federal bureaucracy, that handle the day-to-day operations of the government and don't directly report to the president or directly receive orders from him. And it's up to those people. And of course, the Obama commutations today, a perfect example of what can happen when you've got the bureaucrats in those positions that follow the, that are going to have a better position on these issues. So Anyway, I made this big point about how the Trumpocalypse would be terrible for marijuana reform. And I got 2 responses back on it. One of them is pretty easily dismissed because one of them comes from a guy who sent me some links that show that Donald Trump is going to pick Trey Gowdy as his attorney general. Now, folks, if you know who Trey Gowdy is the South Carolinian representative who chaired a Benghazi hearing or two and got nothing. Spent all the taxpayer money, got zilch, and was pretty, overwhelmingly embarrassed as the chairman of that committee. But the thing that's so dismissible about this response is that the source for Donald Trump is going to pick Trey Gowdy as his attorney general was some unknown hack website, right? This wasn't coming off of Politico or The Hill or 538 or CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Reuters, AP, Bloomberg, Google News, Yahoo News, because I looked. I checked like all the main news sites. You'd think him announcing an attorney general pick would be something that would have come across my radar. But no, this was some, right of fringe kind of website that said he's going to pick Trey Gowdy. And then the backup to that was a tweet. I got a link to a tweet from Donald Trump himself, but the Donald Trump tweet was a retweet of somebody citing the right of fringe citation of Gowdy being announced as attorney general, right? So not real good sourcing for the response. Let's just say it. Let's just put it that way, right? But the other response I got, and this was the bigger one. The other response I got was a video of Trump talking to, I think it's 9 News in Denver. And when they asked him, what would you do about Colorado's legalization? He says something to the effect of, if the states want to legalize, I'd leave them alone. Let the states go ahead and legalize. And so this has been posted. Oh my God, Russ, see how wrong you are. Trump is just fine. Trump is better on marijuana than Hillary Clinton. He's better. He said he'd let the states do it. Which is not better. It would be the same because that's what Hillary Clinton's position is. She's in that, I think we should wait and see states of the laboratories of democracy kind of stand. And it's generally accepted that Hillary is going to basically be a third term of Obama. And Obama has generally let the states go ahead and do their thing. So I don't see his position as being anything that's any better than Hillary Clinton's at this point. But then there's 2 other considerations. One, do you believe a goddamn word Donald Trump says about anything? Now, I am not inclined to trust Hillary Clinton or believe her either. But PolitiFact, when it rates all these statements by all these politicians over the long term, finds Hillary Clinton to be up there in the telling the fewest whoppers and Donald Trump to be down there in the biggest liar, pants on fire category. So when Trump is in Colorado, a state that was the first to legalize and is a very popular state for marijuana use, and is one of the 10 states that could swing the election, what do you suppose the guy's going to say? So, no, I don't put much stock into what he says. That's one thing. Plus, knowing that Trump is a teetotaler, who's never even drank alcohol, much less smoked pot, and has called himself the law and order candidate. We're going to follow the laws, follow the rules. So already I'm distrustful of that. But second, the point that I made in the previous article, this person's in charge of picking all these other people in all these other offices as well, and judgeships and departments and bureaus, secretaries of various cabinets that make all sorts of arcane and little decisions. I'm going to be telling you a little bit in the rant about this OSHA decision that's come down. Again, something that is done by bureaucrats at the bottom levels that don't even get any direction or mention from the president. The only effect the president has is on picking those people in the first place as to whether or not they're competent and generally align with that person. The biggest knock I've got on the Donald Trump thing right now is just he's woefully incompetent and unprepared for this job. He's never run any bureaucracy whatsoever. And these people that think they're business people, well, I've run a business, therefore I can run government. Doesn't work like that. See, in business, when you say things, you can just fire people if they don't do that. Can't do that in government. There's a lot of people in government that have these certain positions that are, termed out. I mean, you just can't fire everybody in government. Second of all, business operates on profit loss. Government does not offer on profit loss. Some things are loss. Government and business are two different things. Having success in business does not in any way guarantee success in the presidency. And the other thing is, that's an argument to be made if you've got somebody who's been a successful businessman. Donald Trump is the opposite of a successful businessman. He has bankrupted 6 businesses, 3 casinos twice. How do you bankrupt a casino? This is a business where there's a guaranteed mathematical certainty of profit. That's just literally the house edge is literally a guarantee of profit. How do you mess that up? And leaving a wake of some 3,000 lawsuits, contractors who've been stiffed, American banks that won't loan money to him because he doesn't meet their level of trust, the Nevada Gaming Commission that won't give him a casino license because they can't trust the guy. But I'm supposed to trust that when he says he thinks marijuana legalization's okay, it'll be just fine. So no, I don't put much stock into what Donald Trump has to say about marijuana legalization or anything for that matter. I'm getting to the point now where I feel like Bill Nye arguing with Ken Ham on the idea of who should be president, Clinton or Trump. And for those of you who don't know, Bill Nye, of course, Bill Nye the Science Guy, and Ken Ham is the guy who runs the Creationism Museum. Earth was created 6,000 years ago by God in 6 days, and then the world was flooded by Noah and repopulated with 2 animals of every kind that were on the ark for, that kind of guy. This is as stupid a debate now. Debating whether Trump or Hillary should be president is as stupid as debating whether evolution or creationism is real. It's as stupid as debating whether climate change is real or not. It's as stupid as debating whether or not marijuana should be legalized or not. It is just clear. It is just crystal clear. We are even seeing Republicans now that are starting to rethink themselves, starting to think, wait a minute, do I want to attach my career, my legacy to this sinking ship, to this guy who insults the mothers of our war dead? This guy who calls women pigs and Mexicans rapists? Do I really want to be associated with that? Do I really want that? And to the third party people out there, people who want to vote for third party, it's just amazing to me that there could be a chance to, in our lifetime, absolutely repudiate this vicious, racist, bullying, narcissistic, sociopathic, xenophobic, misogynistic, nativist, white supremacist supporting stain in our country. That this is offered up. This shit stain is offered up as president, and you've got the chance to repudiate that by handing him a lopsided ass kicking from a woman. But you'd rather make a statement, rather make a protest because Hillary's so evil. She's such a terrible, terrible bitch. Got to make a protest statement and let it be a squeaker. Let it be close. Let there still be some doubt in this country. Yeah, racist demagogue, career politician, it's all the same. Let there be enough doubt so that David Duke, perhaps, maybe he can run next year. Maybe we can get Omarosa Maybe John Cena can run. We could shut that shit down for the rest of our life. We could give them such an ass kicking that they'd have to take their robes and burning crosses and hide for another generation. I know it's tough to hear from me. I know some of you heard me stoking the fires of revolution and the whole burning or bust and let it all burn out. I know. You put a lot into that. I did too. You think I'm happy getting people calling me names and some of the people I respect the most disagreeing with me vehemently and maybe even not listening to me anymore? No, it's not like something I wanted. But it's something I looked at and realized, I have to live with my conscience. I already feel bad enough that I've motivated enough of you to think this way. I'm atoning.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Seed to sale, clicks to conversions, and more. You're listening to the Cannabis Radio Network.
While the feds and state are doing their dance, you still need to transact business and manage your cash. Go professional and let your customers pay with PayQuick. They pay you and they earn rewards points. PayQuick connects to your bank account for free and secures all of your transactions. And with PayQuick, you can pay your producers and processors for free. Plus, it pays to have it because it makes depositing your cash safe and so easy. No cops, no crooks, just compliance and comfort, knowing you have your cannabis business in check with PayQuick. PayQuick, the safe and easy way to pay. PayQuick.com.
Previously on the Stoner Jesus Show.
St. Paul's doing good work.
It's Mike Craig here, Poontang. If I can use a medical term.
Yes. The medical journal.
That's right. You can call Dr. St. Paul now.
I don't think I will.
You wouldn't even qualify to be a vet.
I'm a special kind of vet. I'll make him less lonely.
The Stoner Jesus Show. Live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Or find the Stoner Jesus Show podcast on demand at CannabisRadio.com and StonerJesus.net.
Peace, bitches.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
You're going to find really wonderful, well-meaning, well-spoken people, and then people that are just batshit crazy.
Okay, maybe you're high too.
With over 6 years of experience in the industry, New Era CPAs is one of the nation's leading cannabis accounting firms, helping hundreds of growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies with their tax, legal, and business strategies. New Era CPAs offices cover the West Coast from Seattle to San Diego, and their skilled team is always available to help you take your business to the next level. Visit neweracpas.com for more info and set up a consultation. Welcome to the New Era.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
That marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug.
Some think there won't be room for them in jail. We'll make room.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it and didn't inhale.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Radical Rant. Today in the Radical Rant, I want to talk about workplace drug testing. You know, the reason I'm here. And of course, I'm against it. I'm against it in every case. I'm even against it for conductors and pilots and all the rest. Give them a computerized impairment test. Let's see if they're really impaired. Let's see if anything is causing a problem. Let's not discriminate against people who smoked pot a week ago. You know my stand on that. And so for this rant, I want to take a look at another one of these little bureaucratic levels of government that I've been harping on that get decided by the executive branch. And that is OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. And over the past few months, there's been this little series of bureaucratic decisions at OSHA, some new regulations that have been promulgated that open up a very interesting loophole, a very interesting protection for us cannabis consumers in the workplace. And it goes like this. Back in May, OSHA started putting together its new electronic record-keeping rule. And most of it is about employers having to post their injury data on the agency's website, like an online reporting system that they're kind of getting everyone to move to from paper-based system. You know, typical bureaucratic, nobody pays attention to it kind of stuff. But also, the agency indicated that once the rule becomes effective, there's another part of this rule that says employers have to establish a reasonable procedure for reporting work-related injuries and illnesses promptly and accurately, and that a procedure is not reasonable if it would, quote, deter or discourage a reasonable employee from accurately reporting a workplace injury or illness, end quote. Now, what they're attacking here, what they're getting at, is that companies have an incentive not to report workplace injuries and illnesses, right? Too many illnesses, too many injuries, too many violations, gets attention, gets fines, gets all sorts of problems, right? So you might be a construction company, warehouse company, whatever you are, you've got some incentive to keep those numbers low and look like you're running a safe ship. So employers in the past have been known to kind of set up procedures and policies that disincentivize these workers from wanting to report. So, providing incentive programs, like if there's X number of days with no injury, everybody gets a bonus or something. Well, then you don't want to be the guy that reports your injury and fuck up everyone's bonus, right? So that's deterring a reasonable employee, provides this coercion to not report. Okay. And they found that, through studies too, that they don't help anyway. These incentive programs don't help. Another is one that warns employers that disciplining employees who do not immediately report workplace injuries could potentially violate the law. Right? So if you've got a penalty if you got a policy that says you have to report your injury within 1 day or 2 days, or you get a fine or whatever, supposedly that's supposed to be, get them to report. But if it's gone too many days, now you've disincentivized them from reporting at all. And maybe there was a reason why they didn't want to report it at first, right? So this was one of these weird, arcane OSHA regulation kind of things, right? You cannot deter or discourage an employee from accurately reporting a workplace injury. So here's where it intersects with drugs. A lot of companies have policies that require, if you get into an injury situation, you've got to immediately be drug tested. Blanket drug testing for any injury. Even if you were not at fault, you could have been just standing there in the warehouse and somebody else who's fucked up runs over your foot with the forklift, and now you got a workplace injury, you have to be drug tested. And so what they're saying by this is that this blanket drug testing, if you can't show that the injury was related to the person being impaired at work, then the requirement that you have an immediate drug test could deter someone who may be a drug user, particularly a pot user, particularly in a place where medical use is legal or recreational use is legal, who may have used it off work and is no way impaired on the job, but still has those metabolites in their system, would be deterred from reporting the workplace injury. And so now HR professionals are freaking out about this. I've been on 2 or 3 websites now discussing this issue about this new OSHA reporting requirements. Now, to be clear, this doesn't do a damn thing about pre-employment drug testing. They can still ask for a cup of your piss and determine your employable future based on the metabolites in that. They can still do that. This is post-accident blanket drug testing. Not all drug testing. Could be post-accident if they come to you and they see that your eyes are all bloodshot, they're still going to be able to drug test for that. Here's the quote from a website, Lexology.com, says, OSHA stated that you need not specifically suspect drug use before testing, but there should be a reasonable possibility that drug use by the reporting employee was a contributing factor to the reported injury or illness. In addition, the agency said that employers should avoid any type of drug testing that is designed in a way that may be perceived as punitive or embarrassing to the employee, as such a practice would likely deter injury reporting and violate the law. So, this is, like I said, it's the HR people are freaking out because for the past 30 years, since drug testing started in 86, the best practice has always been the standard operating procedure. Somebody gets an injury, drug test them. Automatic. So they are a little concerned about this. The HR company writing about this says that it is not currently clear whether you can escape liability, referring to an employer, if you try to drug test someone after an injury. They say also that this requirement is problematic because trying to prove that someone was impaired who got in the injury, who failed the drug test, well, the drug test doesn't prove that they're impaired. The drug test can only legally establish the presence of drugs, but cannot establish impairment. Well, no shit! That's the point we've been making for 30 years. And now, this requirement to prove people were impaired, our drug tests don't do that. Right! That's what we've been telling you. And the other thing they're concerned about is a lot of these employers, not enough of them, but a lot of these employers are in collectively bargained contracts with unions. So what if the drug testing is in the union contract? And so now the guy got injured and the union agreed that the guy should be drug tested. And we, the employer, can't stop that drug testing without violating the union contract. Oh no, what are we going to do? So yeah, the human resources world is in a tizzy. It was supposed to go into effect for August 1st with the drug testing provision starting on August 10th. But on July 8th, a bunch of employers filed a suit for an injunction. The rule's effective date was moved from August 1st to November 1st. So we are right now trying to decide as a country in the courts right now what's going to happen with this new May 2016 OSHA electronic reporting. And they say, what are we going to figure it out? We got to figure out, should there be triggers? Should there be new procedures to determine whether or not someone gets drug tested after an accident? I, for one, am excited at the bureaucratic maze they're having to run through. What a novel idea. You might have to actually prove someone was impaired before you drug test them. How crazy. Only took us 30 years to get there. All right, folks, that's all the time we got for hour one. Stay tuned for hour two. Coming up next, we've got some Toker Talk Radio for you. We've got the UK's look at whether or not marijuana ballot initiatives will affect the Clinton-Trump race. We've got cannabis commercials to tell you about it and a discussion of how you like me now. For everyone at Cannabis Radio, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers!
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.